Are you ready?
Let's go.
Now circling in the neutral zone.
Here's the pitch on the way.
36 yards for the win.
This.
Here comes a big chance. The shot
is
this the dagger?
The neutral zone.
Home run. Good.
This is as good as it gets.
The Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca.
Now, here's your host, two-time Paralympian, Brock Richardson.
What's going on? It's time for another edition of The Neutral Zone. I am indeed your host, Brock Richardson. Coming up on today's show, we are excited to be joined by Canadian men's para ice hockey player and Team Ontario assistant coach, Adam Dixon. He's going to share all of his experience as a coach and as a Paralympic athlete. Plus, the NFL playoffs roll on. Ho-hum, Buffalo Bills out, as I suspected. We will talk all about that and preview the upcoming Super Bowl, and Jimmy Butler is in the news, and I will warn you, we're going to talk about ham and Brussels sprouts and a butter tart, but you've got to stick around for that. I'm joined by Josh Watson and Claire Buchanan. Before we do our headlines as we normally would, we were graciously honored with another one of our accolades for this podcast, and that is that we were awarded the #1 podcast for both Player FM and Feed Sport. And this is a worldwide podcast, and it's a great honor for all of us to have this 4 years in a row. I'm curious for you guys first, what comes to mind with this show, that accolade? How do you guys feel about that 4 years running now? Start with Josh.
Well, it's obviously a great honor to be listed as the #1 parasports podcast. That is no easy feat when you consider that you're talking about the entire world. And I know from doing a little bit of looking at the lists myself that there's podcasts from the US, from Europe, from all over that are included in the list. And so to be considered the top out of all of those is a great accomplishment, I think. I'm very proud of it and very proud of everyone that's involved in it, because without everybody doing their part, we wouldn't have this.
You're absolutely right. And I am also very proud for what we put out there, but it's an accolade like that is the cherry on top. The entire group here, I know I can speak for everybody when we say that this is one of our favorite parts of the week, and getting on here and talking sports and shining a little bit of light on the parasport world as it's needed. So I look forward to it every week, and obviously our listeners feel the same way. And I hope that we can continue to do this for as long as possible.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. This has been a project that started even before my time. For those of you that have joined us since we've been on the Ontario Para Network bandwagon, if you will, this project started in 2016 for myself, but it started in 2015 when Dave Riccovina, Brett Wills, and Cam Jenkins, Ryan Bennett a little bit brought this thing forward, and this was for the 2015 Para Pan Am Games. It was in Toronto. It made a whole lot of sense. Then I took the Accessible Voice and Broadcasting course, and Dave Riccovina, who was hosting, said to me quite bluntly, he said, I don't need to be the host of this. You're a Paralympic athlete. You're a two-time Paralympic athlete. You do it. You run it. And that's what I did. And I never would have imagined. We've been through 2 regimes. We're on our second regime with the Ontario Para Network. And it's just been real great fun. It takes a lot of time and effort and scheduling and talking, and sometimes we have serious conversations in our chat groups. Sometimes we're having fun. It takes a lot to put this together every week. So to be recognized 4 years running that we are aware of, this is something that I am also very proud of. And I want to thank everybody that's been involved with the podcast. I'm not going to name them by name, but you all know who you are, who you've been involved with. But my core team right now, if it's not for Josh, Claire, and Cameron, this is not happening. These individuals have full-time jobs and full-time things, and then I come along and say, let's record a podcast at 5:00 on a Monday and sit with me for an hour, and I promise I'll be within an hour, and I never am. But it really takes a village. So I want to thank all of you for all of your efforts in the show, and without you guys it's not possible. So that's that. Let's get on with regular scheduled programming and into our headlines.
Neutral Zone headlines.
The Ontario Para Network is excited to announce the members of their 2024-2025 junior wheelchair basketball team. The team will compete at the Junior East Wheelchair Basketball Championships in Charlottetown, PEI, from April 4th to 6th. We are here at the Neutral Zone. Wish them all the luck. And if you want to see the full team roster, go ahead and follow the Ontario Para Network social media, which you will hear later in the show.
Congratulations go out to Cece Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and Billy Wagner on their election to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Congratulations to a few of these players, including Billy Wagner, were on their last opportunity to be inducted. So very, very exciting news for those three individuals, and very, very well deserved. They each had incredible baseball careers.
It was a career night for a basketball player, a Canadian basketball player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He dropped 54 points recently in the Thunder's win over the Utah Jazz. He now becomes the highest ranked Canadian in the NBA with this 54-point game. He surpasses Jamal Murray, who had a 50-point night. So congratulations to Shai. And I always like watching the highlights that come from Shai night after night. It seems like every time I turn around, there's another highlight of him draining more threes. So congratulations, Shai. All the best in your success moving forward.
The Ohio State Buckeyes won the college football championship, and it was the inaugural 12-team playoff structure. And they beat Notre Dame with a score of 34-23. So congratulations to them. As an Alabama football team fan myself, I was kind of gutted to see them out of there. But yeah, I'm really liking this 12-team structure, and it gets the athletes themselves just more prepared for the NFL as well. So I like it, and looking forward to this. This is going to make college football so much better.
Claire, I'm sorry to give you that headline. I did not do it out of spite. Trust me, I really did not. I just went in order of first, second, third, and you just happened to have the last one. So I apologize for that. Those are your headlines for this week. If you want to get a hold of us on social, here's how you can do that.
And welcome back to the Neutral Zone broadcast booth.
Play ball!
We're set to get this ball game underway. The first pitch is brought to you by Brock Richardson's X account at Neutral Zone BR.
Strike!
Pitch and a strike. Hey, gang, why not strike up a chat with Claire Buchanan from the Neutral Zone? Find her on X at Neutral Zone CB. There's a swing of the chopper out to second base, right at Claire as she picks up the ball, throws it over to the first base for a routine play.
Out!
And fans, there's nothing routine about connecting with Cam and Josh from the Neutral Zone at Neutral Zone Cam J and at J Watson 200. And the Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Connect with them at ON Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca. Now that's a winning combination.
We are so excited to be joined by Paralympic ice hockey player and coach as well. He's also, let me do that again. That was terrible. We are so excited to be joined by Paralympic para ice hockey player for Team Canada and also assistant coach for Team Ontario and Midland Hall of Famer. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to have a conversation with you.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for having me on.
Adam, if we can just start off by hearing you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in para ice hockey.
Yeah, I grew up playing stand-up hockey. When I was little, my dad was traveling to tournaments doing old-timer style hockey. So I kind of grew up in a rink. I was a referee. I was a timekeeper. So when I found out I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma in my right leg. I wasn't able to skate any longer. That was kind of a blow to me and to our family. So when we were able to, a family friend had suggested, why don't I try sledge hockey out? And it was a wonderful suggestion. And at first it was just kind of a meantime thing. Like I was going to do it until I was healthy enough to play stand-up hockey again. And that fortunately kind of never came. I fell in love with the sport and never looked back.
You have had an impressive career, being to 4 Paralympic Games. Can you give us a brief kind of overview and just to tell us how much the sport has grown over the length of your career?
Yeah, the sport is incredibly different from the time I first tried it out. But even if from the time of Vancouver Games, my first games, all the way through to Beijing, you've watched YouTube videos of the games. You can see that the equipment's changed quite a bit. Initially, we were using wood sticks, and now we've got full carbon. The sleds look a lot different now. But then the tactics, the sport itself, we're still playing hockey, but they've evolved slowly, as the sport tends to do. Then I think a big difference that you'd see is just in the athletes, how physically fit they are, and just how much commitment they put into the game. Not just their bodies, but they're mentally able to play at a very high level now. Those are the two big things. I'd say the equipment, but then also just the athletes.
One of those Paralympics that you got to participate in was 2010 in Vancouver. I'm wondering, what's it like competing in your home country on that big of a stage?
Being able to compete in Vancouver was such a treat. And it was almost a little bit of a curse, because every games I've been to since then, they can't compare to competing at home. Walking into BC Place, there was 60,000 people for the opening ceremonies, and just when Canada was announced and the crowd erupting, just such a incredible experience. It still gets me in my core now. I can feel it in my gut. I get the butterflies thinking about it. But so to compete in Vancouver, I had way too many family members there, but it was awesome.
In 2024, you guys also had a big moment on home soil when Team Canada won the World Championships in Calgary. It had been a while since Canada was able to win a World Championships. What was different about this one?
It's tough to pinpoint exactly what would be different. I think for me individually, I grew up playing defense. I made this team as a defenseman. I spent a lot of my time on defense. And in that World Championship, I was playing third line center. So just for me, playing a new role, a new position, I don't think I was the only one doing that. So everyone just accepting that new role and then excelling in the role they were given. I think that would be a big spot. But we played some very, very good hockey in that final against the States. So, perfect game at the perfect time, which is what we were looking for.
A new part to your career is coaching, and you've recently joined the coaching staff for Ontario Para Ice Hockey. Can you tell us what the state of para ice hockey is in Ontario right now?
Yeah, Team Ontario, we're having a ton of fun at camps. So I'd say the state of para hockey in Ontario is pretty good. We're growing, we're learning. We've got myself and Greg Westlake on staff, but then we also have a great staff with Americo and Adam Stoppa. They're doing a great job of just preparing the kids for nationals and just preparing to be successful in life, not outside of hockey as well.
You are currently a player and a coach. What are the benefits and what are you enjoying most of mixing both as part of your daily life right now?
The benefits of it is just I get to challenge myself every day. Coaching is very new to me. It's something that I laugh when I do it now, because I can see why my former coaches might have been a bit frustrated with myself. But some of the benefits, I think, when coaching with Team Ontario and still being an active athlete, when I'm at our players on Ontario to do certain things, it's things that I'm doing myself currently. I'm still doing it, and it's not like I'm asking too much of them. I'm walking the walk as well as talking the talk.
Okay, now in September of 2014, you were inducted into the Midland Hall of Fame. I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about that and what it meant to you as a career accolade.
What an incredible honor to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm not really sure who figured it out and nominated me. I think they might have thought I was retired. I think they usually wait till you're retired before they induct you. But maybe that was a signal from coaching staff. I know, incredible honor to be a part of the Hall of Fame in Midland. I'm not too involved in Midland, other than my mom still lives there. And when I go there, it's a pretty quiet time we get to spend with family. But what an incredible honor to be recognized by the community. They even put a street in my name, which is like top-notch honor. But one of the other things I did in Midland, I think might actually be the best accolade I've ever had. I got to be the guest judge at the Butter Tart Festival in Midland. So that's my athletic peak right there, eating 22 butter tarts in a day.
That's really impressive. That's an impressive number, and even impressive length of career. I think that's what most people see when they see you, is that you've had the longevity that we all wish that we could have as athletes. And I'm just curious as to what's next with yourself and Team Canada. What's the next exciting step in the calendar, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, coming up, we're heading to the Four Nations Challenge. We'll be playing the U.S. in 2 games. So that's going to be the very first time we've had the NHL promote our sport. So that's going to be very exciting. We're not really sure what's going to happen, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. And then we've got a 2-team camp. We're hanging out with the women's team in St. Catharines. So that's going to be fun. I love getting to spend time with both teams and kind of share some knowledge. And then obviously we're only 13 months away from Milan 2026. So that's our main goal. That's what everything we're looking at right now. We're training and looking to peak at that time. So those are the big things that are on our horizon, and looking forward to it.
I've got 2 questions, but I'll start with the sport question first. What part of Team Canada's game do we still need to work on in order to get to that peak in Milan, as you just sort of told us about?
You know what? I think we've got everything in place with Team Canada. We just have to be consistent. It's kind of a typical hockey answer, but for us to play a full game the way we know we can, to play the U.S., we're going to end up in a low-scoring game where we're not allowing too many goals against, but finding our spots to score. And if we end up in a shootout with them, we can't play that game. They're probably going to outshoot us. So we just have to play a very good defensive game and do that for a full game.
And my non-sports question has to do with the 22 butter tarts. Did you have a favorite, or can you even pick a favorite out of 22 butter tarts? Because I know I would have trouble with that one.
I was judging the non-traditional category. So the one I actually enjoyed the most was a Brussels sprouts and ham butter tart. So it was like kind of a savory and sweet. It was very good. It doesn't sound like a good butter tart, but it was very good.
Man, if we were on video, Josh's face was pretty priceless on that one. When you said that, that's unique. I think I would rather be part of the traditional butter tarts, but hey, a butter tart's a butter tart at the end of the day. So there you go.
I'm just trying to figure out what it would taste like. I'm trying to picture a butter tart and those items together, and it just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense in my head, but I'm glad it was good.
You'll have to come to the Butter Tart Festival in Midland and find out for yourself.
I guess so.
There you go. Adam, thank you so much for doing this. We greatly appreciate it, and best of luck as things move forward towards Milan.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys having me on and sharing our sport and what STO is doing out there. So thank you very much.
You're welcome anytime.
The Neutral Zone is sponsored by the Ontario Para Network. Their focus on the growth and development of wheelchair basketball, tennis, and rugby in Ontario.
It's always fun having athletes join us on the program. Sometimes you get little nuggets from people that you didn't necessarily expect. And that nugget from Adam Dixon today was talking about ham and Brussels sprouts butter tarts. So I ask you, just having done this interview, would either of you try this butter tart? Josh, go first.
I have tried a great many things in my lifetime, including haggis, which is an experience unto itself. So I would try it, but I have to admit that as he was explaining it in the interview, I was trying desperately to picture how it would go together, how it would taste, and I'm just very, very, very confused, because on the one hand you've got the sweet butter tart, then you've got the savory, almost earthy Brussels sprouts, then you've got the ham. I'm hoping there's some kind of cheese involved, but I can't picture it. So I would definitely have to try it just to say I had.
I am also one of those people that yes, I will try it. Put it in front of me. I'll at least give it a shot. And I might get my Canadian citizenship taken away by saying this, but I am not a butter tart fan. I don't like them. I'm more of a savory person. So when he brought up the Brussels sprouts and ham, I actually took a liking to it. I think that I would be a big fan.
Okay.
Well, some of you probably know more than others, but I have issues with texture. Like, if it doesn't go together, or like, it doesn't have to go together for the general public for me, but if in my brain it doesn't go together, I'm not trying it. And Brussels sprouts and ham and a butter tart, I'm just like, yeah, I'll pass, because I don't like Brussels sprouts for the same reason that Josh just articulated, and he used a word that I use all the time, an earthy taste. I don't believe I should have to taste the earth to indulge.
So turnips are definitely not on your list then.
I love a good root vegetable, guys. That's one of my favorite dishes at like the holidays is some Brussels and bacon.
Well, there you go. You dress it up with the bacon, though.
Yeah, throw some maple syrup in there. You can make Brussels sprouts taste good. I promise you.
This is not fair for somebody who hasn't had dinner yet.
Can we put... Sorry, Josh, this will be my last question on the food then. Can we put bacon on a Brussels sprout? Does that work? Because maybe then I would try it. But yeah, it's...
We'll hide the green for you.
Yeah, if I don't see it, I don't know. Any other comments on the specifics of the interview, the success of Adam? He did say that he gave us a cliche answer in that, they're there, they just got to put it all together for an entire 45-minute hockey game. He admitted that was a cliche answer. Any other comments before we move on to my least favorite Butler in the NBA?
I was at that game in Calgary, and that's how I would have described that game, is defensively sound, and they played a full game. It all aligned, and I think they can do it again. Absolutely. I have been at camps with Adam, and we joke around because he's finally not the oldest guy in the room when I'm there. So it's, again, I can't speak enough on just how well he has given himself longevity in this game and the way that it's evolved. He's stuck around and he's working hard. So he's definitely one of the guys, I think, on that squad that really serves a veteran presence and is going to work just as hard as the younger guys. So I really think that they can make it happen, and I'm really excited to watch them at World Championships in Buffalo this upcoming May.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that he is getting into the coaching world as well as
playing.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday. It's okay.
No, it's the Greg as well as Greg. I'm glad to see both of them are getting into coaching, because I've always felt like para ice hockey should be coached by people who know the game. And I know the coaches that we have had are incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to hockey, but I've never been quite so certain about their knowledge of para ice hockey, and I do feel like they are different sports. So it is really nice for me to see people who have had success at the international level getting into coaching the next generation. So I'm very excited about that, and was glad to hear that that is going well for him. I've had my own dealings with Adam, both being an opponent of his and watching him skate around me like a pylon, as well as being a teammate of his during some summer ice that our friend Americo arranged one summer. That was where I learned that you do not try to body check Billy Bridges. It's not a good plan. It tends to hurt. You end up wondering how you got to look at the ceiling instead of what was in front of you. But no, Adam is a great guy, and so is Billy. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to sit down and chat with him. I don't normally have that opportunity, so it was really nice.
I also just want to mention, to be a coach and an athlete at the same time, even though he talked about it as being a benefit, which I believe, because you're also practicing what you preach, because there's another cliche that you often hear, practice what you preach, and so on and so forth. So he's doing exactly what he's saying, which he articulated. But I just thought to myself as I'm sitting through that interview, like, he's making it ho-hum, this is my life, but that's not easy to do, guys, is to be an athlete and be a coach all at the same time. Like, he made that sound so easy, Josh, but I'm sure it isn't.
I'm sure it's not either, because you're trying to focus on your own game as well as trying to mentor those around you, which is ultimately a skill, because it's one thing to be able to play the game at a high level, and he absolutely does, but it's another thing to be able to impart what you've learned to another person. Sometimes the old expression, those who can do and those who can't teach, does apply, but I'm very hopeful that for him and for others that they're able to impart some of that knowledge and that experience that they've gained over those 4 Paralympics to help us get to and win another Paralympics, because that, as he said, is the ultimate goal.
Let's talk about something that came across the wire just before we stepped out to do this episode today. That's why this episode is called You're Being a Butler, because, I just thought it was crafty. It was fun. But let me explain why the episode is called You're Being a Butler. Jimmy Butler, who plays for the Miami Heat, was suspended on the day of doing recording, so that's Monday, because he left to practice early after he was informed that he would not be in the starting lineup. Some of you out there would wonder, why does that mean that he's going to be suspended? Well, that's because that was suspension number 3 for this month, folks. His other suspension included that he was not doing, quote, conducive conduct to his team when he had a trade request. And I mean, this is just wild to me. And then the other one is the fact that he missed a flight, which Claire informed me before we did this recording, that not only did he miss this flight going on a game, but he made the team wait for hours and hours and hours. So I just want your reaction. I do have a couple of questions, but when I tell you that he's been suspended 3 times in a month for the reasons I just articulated, what comes to mind, Claire? And what do you say?
Immaturity. When you look at where he is with his contract, it's interesting that he's presenting himself to the entire NBA like this. I mean, if you don't want to be with a team and you want to get traded, or you just want out of a situation, there's a much better way to go about it. It's immature. What I would have to say to him is you're a grown adult. Like, there's just a way more professional way to approach things if you're not liking the situation you're in. So I hate seeing this in sport.
You're immature, you're being a diva, you're being a princess. Like, you signed a contract to play in Miami, which I don't know about anybody else in this panel, but I think Miami would be a pretty nice place to be. And yet you want out because you're not having fun anymore. Poor baby. Did they make you work? Come on. As Claire said, you are a grown man. Try acting like it. Honor your commitments. Honor your contract. Because when it comes right down to it, you are on display to the rest of the NBA. And if I was the other, 29, 30 owners, I don't even know how many teams are in the NBA anymore, but if I was those other owners, why would I want that in my dressing room? Because sure, he's going to be on board when he gets there, but in 2 or 3 years or 4 years, when we hit the downslope because we've had our success potentially, hopefully, and now we're rebuilding, then what? Is he going to sulk and is he going to whine and try to get out again? Like, I don't need that on my team.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, when you look at his contract again, he's going to be in the mix of free agency. And it's terrible timing, and there's never a good time to act this way. But it's so confusing. I don't understand it.
You're making millions of dollars. Be quiet. Do your job. You're getting paid to play a sport.
Yeah. Before I ask this question, I will remind my panel that this is a PG podcast. We are labeled as clean podcasts. So even though we may want to say whatever we may want to say when I pose this question, just remember how we're listed. Let's put the hat on that we're all teammates of Jimmy Butler. What do you say to Jimmy Butler? Let's just take the, missing the flight, making the team wait, all this. What do you say to Jimmy Butler in that moment, and let's assume that we're tired, we're whatever. What do you say to Jimmy Butler after making them wait hours and hours and you just did what you did? What do you say to a guy like that? Claire, go first.
I guess that would have to really depend on what my connection and friendship was with at the beginning. That would really depend on how I would approach it. If we were just teammates and there wasn't really any real connection or friendship, I probably wouldn't say anything. But if we were closer and like I was invested in this human, yeah, I mean, I say the phrase, you're not calling them out, you're calling them in. If you put enough empathy and compassion into kind of calling someone out on their actions, you can create a stronger connection and it kind of be a learning situation. But if I was kind of cut off from the connection and wasn't anything there, I'd just kind of step away and be like, well, that's not my problem.
I can appreciate that, but it is your problem because it's your team. And so whether you have a great connection with him or not, at some point, he's hurting your team. He's either hurting it by not participating because he's mad, or he's hurting it by distracting the team from its goal, which should be winning an NBA championship. Regardless of where you are in the standings, that should be your goal every year. And you're a veteran player. You have a responsibility, even though you may not want it, to model professional behavior to younger players. It's why guys like this don't often end up on young teams, because you don't want those young players developing these habits. And so if it's me, I sit there and maybe I don't call him out in front of the team, but in a quiet moment when we're finally on the dang plane, I sit down beside him and I say, look, dude, you're making more than some of the guys on this team. You have more talent than some of the guys on this team, and you're not doing us any favors. If you really hate it here that much, go home. Pretend that you've already left, because you've checked out. We don't need this on our team. And you've made clear by your actions that you don't want this to be your team anymore.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said. I guess my comments were coming from more of a, like, I'm going to play with or without this guy. You know what I mean? Like, the next day is going to happen. The next game's going to happen with or without this guy. I've had bad teammates, and I'm still here kind of thing. And you just kind of you have to really sometimes worry about yourself. And yeah, the team, I get, is probably in that position now too. Like, you know what, we don't need you kind of thing. We'll find the next Jimmy Butler or the next, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see what these suspensions turn into. Can he be cut? Is he going to be traded? Does someone else actually want him? It'll be interesting to see where Jimmy Butler lands after all this.
Well, I think that's the sad part, is that somebody will want him. It may not be who he wants to go to, but there will be somebody else out there who will say, he'd be fine on our team. Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, or we'll be the franchise that'll fix him, because obviously, you know, we're better than you. Not better in the sense of like talent-wise, but we have more resources, and it looks like A, B, and C, and that's what it looks like. For me, very simply, and as I was listening to you guys talk, I was coming up with my how and when I would do this. And I think I land where you guys land, in that I don't think I would call him out in front of the team, but my line would be this. I see how much respect you show for us as your teammates, because I'm big on respect. And if you're going to make me wait for hours and hours for something that's in your control, because the team's not coming to his defense and saying, well, Jimmy Butler had whatever the issue was. They said he was suspended because he was late for a charter or what have you. They did not come to the defense. So for me, when you show that lack of respect as my teammate, that's where we have a problem. I can understand misplays, you know, you didn't execute the way you wanted to. I can get behind all that. But just to show the lack of respect, that's where I have a problem. And that's where I would sit down with Jimmy Butler and say, if this is where we are on the respect bar, then I'm going to show you the same level of respect. And I don't care that you are Jimmy Butler, because that's what it smells like to me. Is I'm Jimmy Butler. I can do what I want to do, and then that's it. You don't show the respect to me or to the team as a whole. I don't have to show you respect either, because obviously you don't value it. So I'm not going to value it back to you. Thoughts on that, Claire?
Yeah, no, I agree. He's showing zero respect. It's I myself, if we're just talking about general situations outside of this and it's not a pro sport issue or whatever, it's, man, if you leave anybody waiting on an airplane for more than an hour, it's anyone, you know what I mean? You have an entire plane of people that hate you. It's the worst. It's one of the most frustrating situations on the world. So I'm astonished that it's incident after incident, and I wonder if it's going to continue.
Yeah, how much is too much? When do they finally draw the line and say you're gone? Well, technically they have, because I believe this suspension is indefinite. This latest one.
It's a minimum of 5 games, but it is listed as indefinite. Yes.
I was going to say, I thought I read it as indefinite, in which case I would say to him, Jimmy, go home. When we find a deal for you, we'll call you. Until then, we don't need you here. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. This is tough for me, because I don't have a lot of empathy for it, based on the fact that you're making the money you're making, and I don't have his exact contract in front of me, but he's making quite a bit of money, and I'm like Josh, he's one of the people that makes the most on the team, and so you owe that respect to the franchise, to the fan base, to the owners, and I probably put that in the wrong order, and I get it, but the point still stands that way. For me, it's I also subscribe to the rule of 3 strikes and you're out, and I think that's where I would be. Is 3 strikes, you've shown me your colors, we don't need you anymore. Good luck to you. Good luck to what may come next for you. It screams very much a Kevin Durant sort of scenario when he was with the Nets. It was just a mess. It was nasty, and you see what happened there. So I think Jimmy Butler's headed down a very similar road. Let's chat a little bit about the AFC, NFC championship games. They were fun. One was a little bit more lopsided than the other. I will give you the scores in case you do not remember or you didn't watch the games or whatever. So we have the Eagles beating the Commanders once again. Sorry, Claire, 55-23, and the Chiefs beating Buffalo 32-29. I'm going to start with the Buffalo game. I don't normally do this, but I've seen so many things on social media that almost bother me. Even as a Bills fan, it bothers me. So the Bills have done what they've done. They've gotten to 3 or 4 AFC championships in the last number of years, with missing one in between some of that. But they've gotten to many over the last number of years under Josh Allen. What I've seen on social media is the following. That was a first down, and it was 4th and 1, and the referees spotted it wrong, and blah, blah, blah. My argument to that is, you can't put yourself in that position to leave it up to the human eye. How many times have we spoken about you have to put yourself in winning situations and winning moments? And there was 2 moments in that game in the 4th quarter where Josh Allen had the ball and we went down and didn't do much. And so you can't sit here and blame it on the referees. You can't say, well, that was a bad mark, because obviously they feel it wasn't. Whether you want to show me 30 videos about how it should have been called differently, the Bills put themselves in this position. If they did it on 3 downs, they wouldn't be there. That's my story on the Buffalo Bills. They're becoming in that neighborhood of the Leafs, not being able to finish at the time when they need to. Yes, there was some suspect stuff, but no, I put this on the Bills in the fact that they didn't put themselves in winning position and take advantage of winning situation. Thoughts from both of you, wherever you wish to go. Start with Josh.
I agree with you. When it comes right down to it, you cannot leave a game in the hands of the officiating crew, whether that's a hockey game, a basketball game, a football game, you name it. With today's technology, we can slow everything down. We can go frame by frame if we want to, and we can make whatever claim we want to make based on that information. Those officials do not have that at their disposal. And so ultimately, it comes down to the human eye and human reaction. And if you're fourth in inches and you don't clearly go further than those inches, what do you expect to have happen? Really. I would have loved to have seen Buffalo win that game. I thought they played well enough at times to win that game. And there were many times where I felt like they were going to win that game. But then, as you said, there were times where they fell apart and they didn't do what needed to be done. And so, sadly or otherwise, this is the result I expected from this game. I did enjoy the Washington and Philadelphia game. I thought it was a very well played game. It was exciting to see Jaden Daniels lead his team into that environment and I think perform well. But ultimately, again, that game ended the way I expected it to. Philadelphia was a better team, and they won the game.
Yeah, I mean, we had a similar conversation with Adam Dixon, is you have to play a perfect full game and everything kind of has to align and for those big moments to happen and you to be able to slay the dragon, right? And it's the Bills just haven't been able to do that in the playoffs. We've seen it happen in the regular season, but you have to take advantage of big moments, and we just alluded to it. It's Buffalo fell short in those moments. Not converting on fourth down was probably the biggest one in a grand scheme of things, but it's a long football game. It's not just one moment either. You got to play a full football game, and they've come close. They've come very close in the playoffs against the Chiefs, but it just didn't happen this year. And yes, I was really rooting for Washington to kind of upset everybody and put these playoffs kind of on a spin. He's been doing it all season, just surprising the entire league. And you can see a lot of people jumping on the Washington bandwagon, jumping back on. They're going to be an exciting team to watch for a very long time. So for them to go that far with a rookie quarterback that just plays really good football was fun to watch. And I mean, who didn't get a laugh out of Philadelphia stunning them 3 times in a row at the 1 yard line with the tush push? That like, I've never seen that. They almost scored a touchdown, psyching them out. It was the same player 3 plays in a row. So it was a fun game to watch. I hope that Jalen Hurts gets his first ring. He deserves it. That's, again, my Alabama side coming out. I would love to see him reach the mountaintop and do it. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, and Philadelphia can get some redemption.
Yeah, that tush push, one of them that you talk about, I had to rewind when the referee was talking about, if the Washington Commander player comes over with that kind of action again, because he basically intentionally did it where he came over to throw them off, and then it was going to result in a score. And I've seen some hilarious memes, and this I will acknowledge, where this is a bit hilarious, because the funniest meme that I saw was, don't allow Patrick Mahomes to see that clip, because if Patrick Mahomes can find a way to get a score without getting into the end zone, he's going to try to make it work. For me, the Washington Commanders, they were the story. They were the fun. But the difference between the AFC game and that game was it never was in doubt beyond the mid part of the third quarter. And that's what winning teams do. That's what winning teams have with the pedigree that exists. So for me, that's the way I look at it. It was a wonderful game. I was also hoping the Commanders would pull it out, but it just never happened for them. But they've got good stuff going to move forward for years to come. I can just see it coming. So thoughts on the Super Bowl, and we now know that it's going to be Philadelphia and Kansas City, and Kansas City is going for a three-peat, never been done before in the NFL. Thoughts on that? Let's start with Claire and then go straight over to Josh.
I mean, you got that's going to come down to the running game for Philadelphia, and obviously making sure that Patrick Mahomes has the ball in his hands in the last 1 or 2 minutes for Kansas City. That's how Kansas City has been winning most of their games this season as well, coming back and just hanging around. And but Philly, they have a good offensive line, good run game, and including in their quarterback, he'll also run. Both quarterbacks will take it on their own shoulders, and so I think it's going to be a really physical game, and it's really don't want to see Travis Kelce sing another line from a song after winning a big game. He's got to leave that up to his girlfriend. I got to tell you, he's got to just stick to his day job.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game, I think. I think the only thing that would make it more fun for me is if Jason Kelce was still playing, because then the two brothers would go against each other again, and maybe this time Jason would get his ring, which I think would have been amazing. But of course, he retired coming into this season or last season. I can't remember which now. But he is now retired and doing actually a very good job on ESPN. I really enjoy him as a commentator. For me, I would love to see Philadelphia win. I agree with you that I think it's going to come down to the shoulders of Saquon Barkley for Philadelphia. And can he rip off a number of those big runs like he's had this season? Philadelphia on defense is going to have to play a clean game. Because again, as we've said throughout this podcast, don't leave it in the hands of the officials. If you play clean and if you play the right way, then they should not be a factor. Kansas City is going to have to put together a team game on offense. They're going to have to use their running backs. They're going to have to make use of their passing game. Travis Kelce is going to have to be a factor. Which he is capable of being. He has shown that in the postseason. It's actually, I think, at a point where he is a postseason performer more than a regular season performer. He really didn't have a great regular season, but he has come through in the clutch when he's been needed. Personally, I won't be sad if Kansas City does three-peat because it will be historical. I have always hated the idea of a dynasty. I would much rather see parity. I would rather see somebody else win it, but under the circumstances, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Travis retire if he wins a third one. I mean, what else is there to do? You've won the Super Bowl. You've been to the Pro Bowl. You've got one of the hottest partners on the planet. Like, you're winning at life right now, my friend. Get out while you can if you win again. But we'll see. It's going to be a fun game regardless.
Josh must have been in my head because my question was going to be exactly what he just said. So I won't ask Josh whether he believes that Travis will retire. Claire, what do you believe? Do you think that if Travis gets another Super Bowl, he will retire?
I do think so. Yeah, I thought he was going to retire last year. But of course, why not go for the three-peat? So, yeah, I agree. And you're right, Josh. He's kind of checked all the boxes. Like, why not sit back and enjoy the rest of a great career? And yeah, I absolutely see him retiring. I hope he doesn't get into music.
No, I think he's gotten into acting more than music. He's been in a couple of shows, apparently.
I think with the music portion, I think he's quite happy being the entourage of one Swift. That's the thing. Also, I and again, this is getting a little bit more into beyond sports, but I just want to mention that I think the NFL/CBS is getting better at not panning to Taylor Swift every time Kelce, breathes on the field. I understand that she's, a big part of the whole thing, but I do think that, they've done a good job in just kind of being like, there's his girlfriend, excited about whatever's going on. And I think the first couple of years it was ad nauseum. It'd be interesting to see how Fox handles it at the Super Bowl because they don't often do a lot of the AFC games. A lot of their games are NFC focused. So it'd be interesting to see that. Do you guys prefer one broadcast over the other as we close out of today's podcast? Is there one between Fox and CBS that you prefer over the other? I think Josh is still thinking, so I'll let Claire go first.
No, I don't. I am just happy that I get to watch the Super Bowl. I haven't had an experience where I thought it was a terrible job done. You know what I mean? I think no matter what broadcasting company is showing it, it's been a good product. So yeah, I'm just glad I get to catch it every year.
I don't necessarily look at it from a Fox versus CBS versus NBC kind of a situation. I look at it more as who's in the booth, who's actually talking me through the game. And so from that standpoint, it's tough because they're all quite good in my opinion. I'm surprised by how much I've enjoyed Tom Brady in the booth. I didn't think I would, being a Dolphins fan and having to watch him dissect my team for years. But I actually do enjoy some of his commentary. I do find it interesting when he's allowed to sort of walk you through what's going on and how a play is either being executed or what's happening on the field. I find Tony Romo is like that as well, where he's pretty good about kind of taking you inside the mind of the quarterback on an offensive play. Someday I hope we get Jason Kelce in a booth. I think that would be fun. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be fun to hear the O-lineman's perspective. It's one of the reasons I enjoyed the Thursday night football broadcast that's being done, because Andrew Whitworth, former lineman, is on that panel. And I find that interesting. I like hearing from the guys we don't normally hear from. We normally hear from the quarterbacks. There was one tight end at one time, I'm trying to think of his name. He got ousted by Brady when Brady came into Fox, but he was quite good as well. So for me, it has more to do with the person in the booth and the banter between the guys in the booth running the broadcast more than the actual broadcaster itself.
Yeah, I think the reason I prefer, like, if I was to, be, somebody said you have to pick one, I think I prefer Brady because Tony Romo, when he came on a few years ago, he was like jacked up on energy. Like, it was like bam, 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 bam. Like whoa, buddy, settle down a little bit. And I find that Brady, although he gets jacked up and excited, it's not so like in your face. Like, and I know Tony Romo has really dialed it down. I get it. But for me, the first 2 years, I was like, oh my God, like, settle down. And then you've got Jim Nantz, who sits there with his, lovely voice. And it's like, buddy, just take a breath. It's fine. So for me, that's where I lean on that for that exact reason. And it purely is a preference thing that, that's why you choose who you choose. I got a couple of minutes, and because some news happened in Dolphins land, I'd be curious your thoughts on this, because I don't know if it's just me, but I was surprised. Mike McDaniels got extended this year, or this offseason, and he'll be there for the foreseeable future. As a Dolphins fan, your thoughts? Because I was kind of surprised.
I was a bit surprised as well, but at the same time, I think you have to look at what the team has been through. And it starts with their quarterback. If we cannot gently drill into this quarterback's head about sliding and not going headfirst into things, into tackles, then I think we'll do a lot better, because the tactics and the offense when all of the starters are there, I think, is very good. It's when Tua goes down with an injury to his head that things go awry, because we don't have a backup quarterback that can just step in and take over. The offense becomes clunky because he's having to actually think his way through, as opposed to Tua, who's been in it and has it designed for him, where it's just 1, 2, 3, boom, out goes the pass and you're done. I think it's also why you saw the drama with Tyreek Hill at the end of the season, where he's like, I'm done. I'm not coming back here. I'm not doing this again, blah, blah, blah. It's because the other quarterbacks don't know how to work with him. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that situation. as far as McDaniel, I'm not surprised. I think tactically and scheme-wise, he's done a fine job.
Fair enough. Right from the mouth of a Dolphins fan. And I agree with 100% of what you said. I just was surprised based on the results, but I think you're absolutely correct in that we have to look at the factors that went into the last couple of seasons and do that. And I think some ownerships don't necessarily always do that. That's it. That's the end of the show. And look at that, we're on time this week. That's a little bit crazy for us. I'd like to thank Josh Watson, Claire Buchanan. I'd also like to thank our technical producer, Mark Upfollow. Stay tuned for next week because you just never know what happens when you enter the neutral zone. Be safe, be well. Look forward for our annual prop bets discussion next week, as we often do on this program. So stay tuned for that. Until then, be safe, be well.
The Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Connect with them at ON Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca. Now that's a winning combination.